Hello, denizens of the internet. Welcome to part 4, the final part of our Get Geek review of the X-Men relaunch, House of X, Powers of 10. Our review of the 6 episodes of each run. This is episode 12 of the Get Geek podcast, and we will be going over, episodes, or excuse me, I keep saying that. I did so well in the last episode too. Powers of 10, issue 5, House of X, issue 6, and Powers of 10, issue 6. Let's get right into it. What's up, y'all? I'm Jose.
I'm Wolfie.
AJ.
This is what?
Eli.
And Wolfie.
Here we go.
Jump into it, buddy.
Powers of 10, issue 5, titled For the Children. So, year 1, X meets with Forge and asks him to modify Cerebro to allow it to store duplicate mutants' minds. Forge claims the storage and power required are far beyond anything on Earth, but X reveals he has access to Shi'ar technology, that OP, all-powerful, capable technology that is able to overcome the limitation. When Forge asks if he must redesign a new system or build it onto Cerebro, X leaves the decision to in Forge's hands and simply asks, "Are you or are you not going to build it for me?" Year 10. X and Magneto meet with Emma Frost in the Louvre in order to recruit the Hellfire Corporation to aid in the establishment of Krakoa. Emma believes the idea of establishing another mutant nation state is a recipe for disaster, but she is ultimately convinced by seeing Krakoa firsthand. X explains that they need the Hellfire Corporation's help in distributing Krakoa's exclusive drugs to the rest of the world, which Emma compares to becoming the East India Trading Company of mutantdom. Xavier offers Emma a seat on Krakoa's council along with Sebastian Shaw so he can run Black Book operations in countries that reject Krakoa's sovereignty. Emma accepts on one condition: she will need an additional seat on the council. Later, Xavier sends a telepathic message worldwide summoning all mutants to Krakoa. The only one shown rejecting it is Namor, who claims that X doesn't truly believe that he is superior to the rest of humanity and tells him to come back when he really means it. Interesting. Right. I don't remember that, actually. Year 1000, the Phalanx accepts the Librarian's offer and destroy the Elder. The Librarian asks Nimrod why they did this, and Nimrod speculates, and just to differentiate, this is Nimrod the Greater, speculates that the Phalanx are part of a truly massive intelligence hosted in a network of black holes. By adding other intelligence to their own, they consume their own physical form, which they will now do to Earth. And here's where we start getting basically our, I guess, the crux of, or rather the drive and everything from the Phalanx, right? So everything that we saw them do to this other society, now they're on their way to Earth to do. So, what did you guys think of this issue? Anyone? Forge?
All right. So, I mean, in terms of the Phalanx, it was. I mean, I don't want to say I kind of knew that they would accept, but like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, again, the thing with the Phalanx is I see now why they were showing us what was going on in this other society in some other part of the universe, so that we see what happened in that realm, ultimately leading to the destruction of that society, sort of by them being absorbed or ascended into the Phalanx, being absorbed by the Phalanx, right? And now they're on their way to Earth to do that same thing. So
wait, that was another society? I always thought that was Earth.
That's no, I believe that was another.
No, in prior issues.
No, that's a whole nother society. It's just happening in the X timeline 1,000 years from now, but that's a whole separate society, I believe.
Because it looks like everyone on Earth, including the blue guys, are.
Because look,
human.
again, at the end, they state by adding other intelligence to their own, they consume their own physical form, which they will now do to Earth. Right?
Oh, okay. So I see what you're saying. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Right? So Because
So it
remember
hasn't
that
happened
Nimrod is something that's an eventuality no matter where you are. So Nimrod, this emergence of man-machine AI is just something that's part of the evolution of any kind of human society. So that's kind of where that came from. So again, this is one of those things that why it's a little confusing, but as soon as you get the full picture, maybe after some rereading and re-understanding, you kind of get exactly why the phalanx exists. Any thoughts on like one of the key takeaways is this whole Hellfire Trading Club kind of partnership, which if you guys remember, Hellfire Trading Club was another one of those, kind of pseudo enemies to Xavier's dream. Emma Frost being one of those people that one of those like telepathic mutants that had no morals, which obviously not having morals clashes with Xavier, but maybe not in this day and age. What did you guys think of like that whole interaction? Yeah, go. Someone chime in. Someone.
So, I enjoyed this interaction both because of how aggressive she is with Magneto, who's also another X-Men villain, in air quotes. I have to use that a lot in these past couple of casts. I enjoy how, again, this is kind of like the big political machinations behind all of what happens with Krakoa, where you have them offering her the contract to create the medicine that they offer to humankind in the issues before this. And also, I like her demand for that third seat, which I haven't read that far yet. I know Wolfie said he has, and
it's so good. It's so good.
He said it's a really good reveal as to who that third seat will be. I'm a mutant, I would assume, right? Obviously. Bringing Sebastian Shaw back into the fold is really cool. So I really did enjoy this whole interaction in this part of this issue.
One thing to note that I think that's striking within this whole Emma Frost scene is she's totally against doing any of this, because of the whole House of M devastation that happened, and the Genosha genocide and all that stuff. But she is instantly convinced after they show her Krakoa. So they bring her to Krakoa, and at the first sight of Krakoa, she says, "One more time then for the children." All right, I'm in. Those are her very first words, just from the sight of it. And that's important to me because to me, that's exactly sort of like what Moira had told Xavier. Like, what if the dream were real? This is Xavier showing her, this is the dream. I just told you what the dream is. Now I'm showing you that it's real. This is real right now, right here. And I think it's good symbolism there to show that, like, you can change minds by showing that, the reality of it. I thought that was pretty cool. So
It's interesting that Moira has been largely absent in these last four issues that we've read.
that's true. That's true.
She hasn't really been a central figure so far.
Right.
You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
again, remember that all we've had from Moira is just the information that was
Right.
needed to create this.
Mhm.
She gave him the information so that he can just take charge.
Right.
So
50-year contract. That's not bad.
that's
you
not
know?
a bad contract
That's
for
not
her.
to be the sole distributor for Krakoa.
Another standout, certainly that panel with Emma Frost standing over Krakoa. I think that's one of my favorite panels in the whole issue.
Right. Yes. I love the colors in this one too. Real
Yep.
soft. It's it's great. Yeah, AJ.
One of the things that I guess I also like about this issue is being reminded that Namor actually rules a place,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's still a dick.
Well, I mean, my whole thing is that Namor is the man. I love him. I honestly would love to see some sort. I want to see him on film, on TV or something.
Black
He's
Panther
one of those guys.
2.
Oh man, I can't wait.
I want that. That's what I want.
But it's just that, like, it's. I think he's a million times better Aquaman than Aquaman. Just saying.
No.
Come on.
No way.
Come on.
Ew.
Come on.
I think the fact that he's a jerk.
I heard about
Aquaman
Aquaman before I heard about this guy.
He's
That's
more
true.
complicated.
You have, but Namor was Marvel's answer to Aquaman, I believe.
The fact that he's a mutant is awesome too.
But yeah, exactly. So
They kind of just dropped him into this comic, though.
well, the thing is that
Came out of nowhere.
Namor's actually always kind of been like that, where like they drop him, they insert him in because they sort of insert him in there to like be that guy, like whenever anything has to happen with like the ocean, you got to go through him first. So you don't do anything in his territory. It's kind of like Wakanda. You don't do anything in Wakanda without going to, Black Panther. Same thing with the ocean. But at the same time, he's in that same boat where like, this is my world and you're not going to destroy it, because he does kind of enjoy a little bit of exclusivity. Right. He doesn't have to deal with world politics and all that stuff. They don't want none of him. And if they mess with him, he goes and like destroys everything. You don't want to mess with Namor. Exactly. Aside from the fact that he is a jerk.
He goes to Wakanda.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, like this is a great part too, because I just love the delivery of that line.
Yeah, it's very dismissive to Charles Xavier.
Yeah, exactly. Like you were talking about, you didn't exactly remember this moment right off the bat, but I remember this moment pretty well. This was one of my more enjoyable moments in the later issues. And it's like just his arrogance. It's what he says to Xavier.
Get away from me, little man.
Yeah, it's good that you finally figured this out, but let me ask you, do I strike you as someone who's just now realized how much better I am than anyone else? What a line.
Come on, he's
and
so
do you
cool.
actually think I believe that you feel that way too?
Absolutely.
Go away,
Like,
little man,
yo.
and don't come back until you really mean it. Like, that's a really awesome line.
He
to deliver.
sunned Xavier. He sunned him.
Look at his hairline, though. It's literally the McDonald's symbol.
What? It's called a widow's peak. Are you kidding me? How's that a
Vegeta
McDonald's?
has that. Like, what's wrong with Vegeta?
Yeah, I was gonna say
First of all, how's that
Vegeta
the
rocks
McDonald's
it harder
number
than
one?
Namor.
Yes, and
Number
that's
two.
I see
why.
what he's talking about.
And look
Number
at his
two.
eyebrows. It literally curves up. It's like
They're
it's,
handlebars.
yeah, it's basically a door handle.
Don't hate on him just because I hated on Aquaman. You cannot tell me that Aquaman has a better design than Namor.
Listen, Aquaman was the joke of the DC universe
Exactly.
for how many decades? You know what
Until a
I'm
few
saying?
years ago.
Until a couple years ago,
until
sure.
Momoa came on the scene. You know
No,
what I'm
before
saying?
that, because he
Oh, well, no,
he had
that's
the
true.
hook hand and all that craziness.
He had
Oh, yeah,
the
that
big
too.
beard
Like,
and all that stuff.
yeah, he was-
And
that's
it's
true.
and it's only because Namor was so cool. They had to match him up. I mean,
No.
look
Yeah.
at this. Really? Because look, his throne is the Kraken behind him with a bunch of great white sharks circling in front of him.
Yeah, but
that's pretty cool.
Submariner
You're gonna
has
tell me that
always
there's
been
no
cool. You
Yeah,
know?
you're gonna tell me that there's exactly. That's what I'm
He's
saying.
always
He's
been
always
cool.
been cool, whereas
Exactly.
Aquaman has not.
This is
Just
not a
saying.
debate about
It is
Namor or the
exactly.
Submariner.
There is not.
This
There
is
is no
about
debate.
The House of X and the Powers of 10. Namor is awesome, by the way. There is no debate.
So we get the building of
else?
the Quiet
What else we
Council.
got?
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So we get the building. These are going to be the guys that rule Krakoa going forward. And from what I see, again, in one of these data dumps, you have 5, I guess, tables, if you want to call them.
No,
That-
4.
You
There's
got autumn,
4 sides. There's 4 sides. There's basically autumn, winter, summer, and spring.
and then you have Krakoa. Krakoa has its own thing, which is Cypher and Krakoa. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
Well, I guess.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah,
so-
that's true. Yeah.
So
It just shows us a
autumn,
little bit of it because we see almost the full council.
yeah, we have.
Yeah, and
the
and
next
winter
issue.
winter
Yeah,
is,
next issue.
is
The-
completely blank right now.
Yeah.
And so is summer.
Yeah.
You know, the only ones
Right.
that we have right now is autumn.
Spring
It has
and autumn,
2
yeah.
of them, which is Professor X and Magneto, and then spring, which is Shaw and Emma Frost. The other seats for those there's one more that hasn't been filled, and the other 2, winter and summer, are completely blank at this point.
Well, again, we're about to
So-
see
Yeah.
this in this coming issue.
Yep.
For sure. Any other thoughts about this one?
Well, so I do want to talk a little bit, like going back to the whole Phalanx thing. I'll say that like this was actually probably the most striking representation of the Phalanx that I've seen as of yet. One of the things that I see when I see the Phalanx here, it kind of brings me back to the Matrix Revolutions, when we saw the AI take its form, that big head with all the spikes and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So it reminded me of that, this like all-powerful AI being. this intelligence being. If you remember the end of Revolutions, AJ's giving me a really skewed. What movie are you talking about? Look.
No, I know which movie it is, but I don't
let me
remember.
show you the image.
Yeah,
So that part.
It was the
versus-
freaking baby face.
Yeah, the little baby face, but
Baby
like with like
face
the
that
spikes and
floated
everything.
up to Neo and
Yeah.
like talked to him and then sacrificed him like Jesus.
Yeah, so now that I'm thinking about it, those two things are kind of the same thing, right? Like in the Matrix, that represented the AI as a whole, okay, and the intelligence as a whole, and then in here, this orb with the spikes represents the phalanx, which is the intelligence as a whole that's absorbing the society and everything into its intelligence, right?
Yep.
And yeah, so and then here's where we kind of get like the whole hierarchy being described as far as what these different types of societies are. Not to get too into that to not complicate things. So, and that's kind of where Powers of 10 ends. So, moving along, we have now, we go back to House of X, I believe, right? So, House of X 6.
Issue number 6, the final issue in this run of House of X, and then finally Powers of 10, issue 6.
All right, so, and that one is titled I Am Not Ashamed. So, 1 month prior to the events of the series, X, Magneto, and Moira meet. Speaking of Moira, they meet in Moira's no space underneath Krakoa. Interesting, it's called no space. Xavier uses Cerebro to offer Krakoa's miracle drugs to all of humanity in exchange for 3 conditions: Krakoa's inclusion in the United Nations, Krakoan citizenship for all mutants, and amnesty for all mutant criminals. His message is heard by everyone around the world, mankind and mutants alike. Information pages reveal that
Just a moment.
So Siri, I somehow trigger Siri, and Siri is like, no, I have no
You do
idea.
that.
Stand by, please.
Siri, shut the hell up.
Well, don't say her name again.
Yeah,
I don't know
gonna keep
how that
listening.
works.
triggering her.
Sorry,
Shut
guys.
down, girl.
Triggered.
Oh man! All right, so let me continue again. So, once again, Xavier uses Cerebro to offer Krakoa's miracle drug to all of humanity in exchange for 3 conditions: Krakoa's inclusion in the United Nations, Krakoan citizenship for all mutants, and amnesty for all mutant criminals. His message is heard by everyone around the world, mankind and mutants alike. Information pages reveal that the Quiet Council of Krakoa includes 14 members: Xavier, Magneto, Apocalypse, Mr. Sinister, Exodus, Mystique, Sebastian Shaw, Emma Frost, Storm, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, Cypher, and Krakoa itself. They are assisted by the 4 great captains who lead in times of conflict: Captain Commander Cyclops, Gorgon, Bishop, and Magic. In the present, the Quiet Council meets to design the laws of their nation. After much deliberation, the council devises the first 3 laws of the nation of Krakoa. Mutants must make other mutants. Mutants shall not murder humans. And the land of Krakoa must be respected. The council finds Sabre-Toothed guilty of violating the 2nd law and sentences him to exile deep within the bowels of Krakoa. Krakoa swallows him up as X. Xavier laments the business of running a nation. After the council adjourns, they celebrate the birth of their new nation with the other residents of Krakoa as Xavier and Magneto proudly look on. This was quite the powerful issue from a moral standpoint. This is where my thoughts and my previous beliefs on who Xavier was and what he represented are now destroyed and gone, because Xavier in a past time would never have used another mutant or human or just another being, mutant or human, either way, he would not have used them as an example for anything. And not only just use him as an example, but sacrificed his life to it. And that's the thing. Especially after saying, like, so these are the laws. They just now created the laws. And then to show that they're willing to follow through on the laws, they use Sabre-Tooth as an example, as opposed to giving him an opportunity to abide by the laws. So I had a little bit of a whoa moment with that. So anyway, what did you guys think?
This is. I'm sorry. I'll My thought's going to be relatively quick, and then we can jump to you. This is, to me, the way that they ended House of X, the last 2 issues are absolutely fantastic, because they set up the hope of what Krakoa is, they set up the benefits of it, they set up how amazing it can be, and here, with the trial of Sabre-Tooth and with Xavier's speech at the end, as he talks about how the business, as you said, of running a nation, and how he hopes that they don't grow hard or evil in some way as a result of this business of running a nation. Just the way that they set up Krakoa and the politics of it and the finality of those politics in these last 2 issues is, again, the quality just continues in each of these issues. It's another fantastic issue.
Yeah, I mean, it's more world building. I will say this about this issue specifically. The art and the panels, the way that the panels are designed, I think this is probably if not the strongest, one of the top 2 or 3 strongest issues art-wise of the entire series, in my opinion. Just scanning through these issues, these images here, it's unbelievable what I'm saying. So.
This is one of those issues where the artwork by itself tells the story. You don't even need.
That's true. Yeah. Actually, just scanning through, you're like, whoa.
Yeah. You can see the story. I loved how this issue started, and it started with Professor X without the helmet, but we still don't see his face.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then the minute that we do get a frontal view, he's got the helmet on. The speech that he gives, that telepathic message that he sends out,
the message that he sends to everyone,
amazing. And there's a couple of panels that I love to highlight here.
You know what? Before you go on, why don't I go ahead and read the speech to everyone so that everybody understands.
This is the panel that I was talking about. Once it gets into these 3, which is going to be part of your speech, so please go ahead.
So, this is Xavier's speech to the entire world. Humans of the planet Earth. I am the mutant Charles Xavier, and I bring to you a message of hope. In the coming days, you will learn of several far-reaching pharmaceutical breakthroughs that have been discovered by mutant scientists. These drugs extend human life, heal diseases of the mind, and will prevent or cure most common maladies. I've used that word. I got to get my dictionary. Influenza, Alzheimer's, ALS, many cancers gone overnight. These drugs will make life on this planet better, remarkably so. And now we start going through a bunch of these panels in different places on the Earth. We have a hospital bed. We have a conference room. We have, it looks like CIA,
almost like NASA,
something like that. Yeah.
You know.
Continuing with the speech, all this we have made for you. In the past, they would have been a gift, something freely given by me to you, because I believe it would create harmony between our 2 peoples. That was my dream, harmony. But you have taught us a harsh lesson. That dream was a lie. You see, all I ever wanted was peace between humans and mutants. And all I ever wanted was to love you. And for you to love us. We wanted to save you, and we did, many times. But in return, all you did was stand by while evil men killed our children. Over 16 million of them. So there will be no gift, for you have not earned it. We will, however, let you pay for it. In return for 2 things, we will provide you with the means to have a better life, one without pain or suffering and full of hope, and it will cost you so little. First, you must accept that the island of Krakoa is the nation state of all mutants on this planet. We will happily go through the same process as any newly formed nation with the UN, but there is an exception there's an expectation that our sovereignty will be recognized. Second, all mutants by birth, specifically by birth, can claim Krakoan citizenship. And with that citizenship, we expect a period of amnesty, so that those who have been singled out as criminals or punished and imprisoned by humans can overcome man's bias against mutants. From this day forward, mutants will be judged by mutant laws, not man's. These are our simple demands, and they are not negotiable. In return for making our lives better, we will do the same for you. And if you find yourselves asking, who are these mutants to think that they can dictate terms of use? We are the future, and evolutionary inevitably, the Earth's true inheritors. You closed your eyes last night believing this world would be yours forever. That was your dream, and like mine, it was a lie. Here is a new truth. While you slept, the world changed.
That was an amazing speech.
That is
That is
a
ballsy.
Malcolm X slash Martin Luther King fusion speech. There's hope in there for both humanity and mutant kind, but then there's also harsh truths that both had to face.
Exactly.
Amazing writing, Jonathan Hickman. Amazing.
And like I said, there are a couple of panels here that along this speech kind of jumped out at me. The part where he says, and I find it interesting that they married this image to it, where he says, "We wanted to save you, and we did many times, but in return, all you did was stand by while evil men killed our children, over 16 million of them." And the image that they show is the Avengers. You know what I'm saying? Which I find really, really interesting, because what is the Avengers' take on all of this stuff? Because, you know, the Avengers are there, they're supposed to protect and all this other stuff. And yet he put the image and the words that are married to that image. It's like, well, you know what? We've done our part. We've gone out to save you. What have you done for us?
Yeah.
All you've done was vilify us, kill us. And the picture that they show is the Avengers, which is amazing. You know what I'm saying? It's like the total yin and yang of the whole situation right there, you know? And then the whole thing was like, well, you guys went to sleep last night thinking that you guys own this world. And I gotta say, when you woke up, that world passed you by, dude. You know?
Yeah.
It's ours. That is just an amazing speech, you know?
I kind of want to talk now about like the whole trial of Sabre-Tooth. Did you guys think it was a fair trial? Honest opinions. AJ, actually? I see you want to kind of comment.
It's fair.
Was it a fair trial?
It's really weird.
Again, just to remind you listeners out there, he's standing trial for killing humans while he was on a mission for Xavier and Magneto, but before this nation was formed and these laws formed. So
yeah, so here's my thing. Maybe in terms of the laws being like drawn up right at that moment, maybe it was unfair in a sense, especially if you're claiming everyone's being given a second chance. But like, if anyone, like, Apocalypse has his reasons. He wants mutants to thrive. I don't know what Mr. Sinister's objectives are exactly, but he has a very specific thing of his own. Sabre-Tooth is really just an out-and-out killer. Like, he has done so before, and he has done it with as much maliciousness as is possible. So it's kind of hard to.
But so has Magneto.
But there's a difference. He has his cause. He's just a hunter having fun.
But I see. Here's my thing. I'm playing devil's advocate, but like at the end of the day, killing is killing, right? You know, if you have a cause and you're saying that one is more important than the other, you're justifying Magneto's killings.
Okay. Well, I don't mean to do that, but my point is, I don't.
It's muddy, right? It makes it really muddy.
It's really muddy, but at the same time, I can get why you want to start with him.
Yes. Okay.
I don't, because anyway, I have my own theories of what should have happened, but hey.
It is not a fair trial. It is a political trial, but that's the whole point.
That is the whole point. It's to make an example.
Because, yes, to make an example, because what was the Fantastic Four originally going to take him into custody? This was a recent thing that was done by a mutant. So it's like a what have you done for me lately situation. You know, Magneto in this storyline seems to not really have been a villain, if at all. We don't know. Maybe not even at all, right?
Yeah,
because,
no, he hasn't been.
You know, exactly. He teamed up with Xavier and with Moira very early on when they showed him the visions of what was going to happen with Krakoa, right? So for me, it was to make an example of Sabre-Tooth and to show the world, like, look, if we violate your sovereignty, to show humankind, that if mutants violate their sovereignty, they will also take that very seriously. I think because this is still a little bit of Professor X's personality seeping into the way things are done, because he has to. He's more of a dick in this, right? Right? We've all agreed that he's a little bit more of a dick, but there's still that need that he has to have some level of negotiation going on, and this is his way of throwing a carrot to humankind. And by the way, the trial is in the entire run of issues, this is my favorite sequence, my
As
favorite
far as art,
moment.
right? Yeah.
As far
Yeah,
as far as art, but also as far as what happens in this storyline, and it's like really, it's horrific. Kind of what happens to Sabre-Tooth. You almost feel bad for him, even though he's a murderous psychopath, because he perceives everything that's happening to him, and will perceive everything that's happening to him while he's in this stasis.
I think
Creepy.
I think you'll see him back though.
It's like the sunken place.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things, right? Like you'll definitely see him back because in the mutant world, no one's ever really dead,
He
and
might-
even more so now.
He might be one of these guys that is part of those Black Ops teams that
See,
they
that's
use.
exactly my
You know what I'm
thing.
saying?
All right,
But let me just say this. In terms of whether this is a fair trial or not, I really don't think it matters at this point. I kind of agree with Jose. This is kind of like a political.
it's
olive
for
branch,
sure
you
a
know?
political thing.
But at the same time, as much as I like Saber-Tooth, he kind of did this to himself because you know what? Even though these rules weren't made at the time, they went out on a specific mission, and that mission was you do not kill people. That was already stated, and he totally disregarded that.
Right, and
he showed
I get
no
it.
remorse.
No, I get it.
And then on top of that, when they asked him, "Are you going to change?" he blatantly said, "Hell no, I'm going to kill more people."
So I was gonna
So-
kill
That's
them,
and
basically.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. So
See, but he's
for me. That I think you had to do this.
that's true. But see, my issue is that I guess in let's say in our universe, in our world, the punishment would fit the crime, right? But in a situation where the laws aren't, they have been formed in this new nation that this person now has amnesty for, okay, and you're using him specifically for an example, I think they could have, in a real world scenario, I think the punishment was because the punishment is being sent into the abyss of Krakoa, where he is basically a vegetable now.
Yeah, but you know what? He's going to be back.
I
But
know
let
that
me-
he's gonna be
let
back,
me-
but
let
see,
me
this
ask
is
you-
my thing. Like, I think that they could have me
But if
personally.
there's one character that you would use to make an example, he would be the perfect one.
He would
because
be, I
he
know,
Doesn't
but
care.
It's
to,
just I feel like Saber-Tooth has never gotten like the he's such an awesome character, even if he is a villain.
No, I
He's
agree
such an
with that.
awesome character, but he has always been this. He's always been the scapegoat for the X-Men
And
universe. He's the
that's-
one that they kind of throw to the trash, the one that always gets beat up and stuff. And
That's kind of cool
You know?
because you know what? They, as much as these characters have changed within Hickman's run here, they still stay true to their nature.
True.
Right? And Saber-Tooth has always been a murderous
right, I know.
villain, and he's never going to change.
See-
and so you can't give him a pass because
I'm
you know,
not saying
the
give him a
minute
pass.
that he
I'm
gets
not
out
saying
of
give
there,
him a pass.
he's gonna kill something. Whether he steps on a bug or kills
True.
he's gonna
I'm
kill
not
something.
saying
You know what I'm
give
saying?
him a pass. See,
So-
I'm saying is like put him in prison where we can rehabilitate him and then use him.
He's
You
That's
can't
not true. See, that's-
rehabilitate
I-
Saber.
but see,
unredeemable.
My thing
This
is
is supposed to prove that because you see Apocalypse get on their side. You see Mr. Sinister, Sebastian Shaw, Magnet. Everybody
Why
is
is
on their
he-
side
why
and
is
is
he
willing
the
to
one?
sacrifice for the greater good. And he's the only one who says,
I know,
screw you
I
all.
know.
Yes.
I'll kill you all.
Exactly.
I'll kill every human. And I don't care about the laws of this place. I'm Saber-Tooth." He sees himself as higher than them in a sense.
Yeah.
And they can't have that.
You can't have
He's
him walk
disrupting
away.
this easy piece.
You can't have him walk away. He has to be made an example of. And on top of that, you're showing the humans that you are following through on this edict here. You know what I'm saying? And he's gonna go out and he's gonna kill somebody. So, I don't think that. And again,
all I'm saying is that if I was writing this, I would put him in some way, maybe like represent the way where they can show that they can rehabilitate the mutants that are bad.
Well,
because
just-
my whole thing is, in a perfect world, he gets rehabilitated, and then there's a team up between him and Wolverine
Yeah,
as
'cause
the
it's
Black
not gonna
Ops.
happen.
Why
It's not
not?
gonna
But that's what I'm
happen.
saying. Now it's
But
not
that's
going to
not
happen,
his-
but that could happen.
But that's not his character. You know what I'm saying?
They're completely redesigning the universe.
I don't-
Anyway, all right.
know.
I don't want to harp too much
Listen,
on this.
he's got plenty of time to think about what he's done.
As
you
a
know what I'm
vegetable.
saying?
That's the thing. He can't. He's a vegetable.
No, he's not.
No,
He's
he's
conscious.
still conscious. He just can't move.
Yeah, they say specifically he's completely
got plenty
conscious
of time to
while he's
think
in that
about-
stasis.
I don't
Think
know,
about
man. I think
all
that's
the
gonna make
things
it
that
go
he's
crazy.
done.
That's gonna
might.
make it go crazy.
But that's even worse. But anyway, let's move on to the ending of this issue, which is also like pretty freaking huge and a pretty big moment, right? I think we can all kind of agree where they have their
they have a big celebration.
they have
It's
their
basically like
Return of
it's-
the Jedi / Zion in the Matrix
yeah,
celebration, right?
it's a full celebration. Everybody's in party mode. I spoke about this before, that there's like an interesting little kind of trio thing going on over here between Jean Grey, Emma Frost, and Cyclops, where, well, even before that, it's kind of cool over here. We actually see something even more interesting. We see Wolverine hugging and bringing a six-pack to Cyclops and Jean Grey. So there's the end of that feud between Wolverine and Cyclops, which I think that we saw the end of that before too, when they had like that little moment right before Wolverine took on that you know, that thing where he went to kill the Mother Mold, but he jumped through a Nightcrawler. He knew that he wasn't coming back, so there was a nice little moment there with Cyclops. But
You don't think there's a beginning of a new love triangle here?
I don't know, because that's the thing, right? And so the next page we have Cyclops giving Jean a beer, and then Jean looks over with a smile to Emma Frost, and she goes to Emma Frost without looking at her, but passes her a beer as well. And Emma Frost looks back and is looking back, I believe, to Cyclops behind Jean Grey's
Yeah,
back.
man,
So
she's got that
there
come
is that
hit-
still there.
That come
That's-
hither look, right?
Yeah, I know. So that's, I think, always going to be there. That's still very interesting. Apocalypse is just sitting in a corner sulking, but I think just taking in the celebration. And the final piece of artwork that we see for House of X is Magneto and Xavier, kind of on like a Lion King like Pride Lands rock, looking up to the sky with fireworks behind them. And Magneto just says, "Just look at what we have made." So yeah, that's House of X 5, or it's rather 6.
Very
And-
fitting ending, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Very fitting ending to that run of issues. And now what?
And
We jump into the final
The final issue,
Powers of
yeah.
10.
Powers of 10, number 6,
Yes.
which is titled House of X. So in this one, we're actually it's a little backwards now. So we start off with year 1000. The librarian strolls through the preserve, which is revealed to hold mutants, not baseline humans, as previously hinted. He comes across Wolverine and Moira, who has survived via blood transfusions from the former for the past millennium. So in 1,000 years, Moira is still alive, and informs them that he is arranging... The librarian informs them that he is arranging for them to be taken off the planet before the ascension. It is revealed that the librarian and his race are post-humans, Homo novissima, humans who have used genetic engineering and technology to direct their own evolution and thus outnumber mutant kind. The librarian explains that if Moira dies when the Phalanx destroy the Earth before ascension, she can use her powers to stop them. However, if she is left behind, the Dominion can use their consciousness spread throughout all of space and time to stop Moira instead. Wolverine kills the librarian and then kills Moira so that she can now use her knowledge to stop the ascent of post-humanity. This is then revealed to be Moira's 6th life. That missing life that we were, never got a chance to see, is actually the year 1000 timeline. We fast forward now to, or rather backtrack to year 1, when Xavier sees all of Moira's lifetimes. Xavier is crushed by the experience and the revelation that mutant kind will always lose. Moira explains that the one constant throughout all her lives is that Professor X is a good person, and that she had to break that part of him to ensure mutant survival. And this is key, another key thing for me, and we'll talk about this a little later. Finally, in year 10, Xavier and Magneto meet Moira at her no space to inform her about the new council. Moira is suspicious about Emma not having named her extra council seat yet, but Xavier trusts her. Xavier also informs Moira that in order to convince Mystique to join, they made a promise that they'd resurrect Destiny. Moira is opposed to precogs in Krakoa since they will end up revealing mutants' ultimate fate and jeopardizing the project. But Xavier and Magneto promise this will be different and that the time has come for Moira to step aside. Xavier and Magneto renew their commitment to fight for mutant kind. Magneto proclaims, "I am not ashamed of what I am. Let's see them try to stop us this time." And this was the final issue of Powers of 10. I think this is probably obviously it's also the end of Powers of 10. It's the epilogue that gives us the information on what's to come, reveals some really, really key points in the issue. But definitely, in my opinion, while the last House of X issue kind of finished building out this world of Krakoa and where they are in the present time, Powers of 10, issue 6, I think is the most important issue in the entire series. And here's why. So again, going back to year 1000, when they reveal that this is Moira's sixth life, the information that they have there of the Ascension, this whole phalanx thing, that's now what they're working towards. This whole time before that, I believe, we were kind of reading House of X with the idea that like they were still trying to stop the phalanx and all that stuff, I guess, or Nimrod basically. We were believing that that's the main thing that they were trying to stop.
Right.
No, their main thing is trying to avoid the phalanx, right? And then in the section with the year one, this part's also really important to me because when I keep talking about Xavier's morality in this, that he's different from like the Xavier of the past, the Professor Xavier of the past, Moira specifically states that the one constant throughout every single life where they failed is that Professor X is a good person, and she had to break that part of him for mutantdom to survive. And that goes back to the trial, using him as a political pawn, essentially, so that he can make peace with the humans. And another thing that we didn't talk about in the previous issue, I believe it was Powers of 10, or rather, it was House of X issue 4, I think, where I think so. It was when Emma Frost had told Xavier that, I swayed the Russians a little bit. I made sure that they didn't vote in the UN Council, and Xavier approved. See, in the past, Xavier would have never approved someone influencing another mind without their consent, right? Xavier now doesn't care about that moral part of it.
Right.
It also calls back to the last piece of the puzzle for me, which is that he doesn't consider himself Professor X anymore. He is just X. It's almost like he has shed that title of being the teacher and the role model, and now he's just, I got to do whatever I got to do. So with that being said, what did you guys think of the end of the series, this Powers of 10 issue 6?
This comic book was probably my least favorite.
Really?
If I had to rate it,
well, why
2 out of 10.
Why 2 out of 10? What?
Ratings now, okay.
You're rating
No.
this? You're saying that this would be a 2 out of 10?
Yep.
Oh my god.
I just really didn't like this at all.
But why? I need to know what didn't you like
because
about
You're
the
not
issue?
explaining anything.
Yeah.
Explain.
Wasn't interesting. It wasn't.
It's not interesting.
It was
I don't
straight
think
up
you
wasn't
know.
interesting. I found the only thing that came close was that thing with Wolverine killing her again, but the thing,
It really sounds like you're just looking for action.
huh? No.
What
Well,
is there? Is there
yeah,
something that you
maybe.
didn't understand that maybe you need some more that needs to be shed? Like more light needs to be
the one
shed.
the one in the middle with the Ascension guy, the librarian. I mean,
The whole point was
it,
that
it
he
was a bit confusing, but otherwise
Right.
it was still boring.
So here's the thing. right there, he was basically questioning whether or not he really wants to be part of the Ascension. Because when that happens, you lose all sense of self. And as he likes to say, you're basically becoming God. So he's now questioning, do I really want to ascend to godhood to give up my individual self? So that brings him to the atrium, or whatever that place is called. Should I stop this mutant? Because if she dies, she will stop the phalanx in some form or the other.
And by the way, that answers a question that we brought up a couple of times. Does the timeline get reset, or is it an alternate timeline? It's a reset timeline.
And that...
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that this interaction was probably, for me at least, it was one of the most interesting, because it kind of seems like if the phalanx really is this like completely above life entity like thing, would they really be? Well, of course they're going to be affected by Moira, but I think, will they tolerate that? Like, obviously, its apex predator, like, you were actually right, it was said in that issue, is Galactus. I thought that was awesome, by the way. But it kind of seems like she's now a potential threat, because if she can go and stop an ascension from happening, they're going to want to do something about that.
It's still... I understand what it's saying, but it's just...
But you don't understand the gravity of that?
No, I understand it. I understand this whole
That's
entire...
really, really huge.
I understand this entire comic book, actually. And I don't know, I just don't...
To me, that whole year 1000 kind of read a lot like the Garden of Eden, where it's like all of a sudden, you have the librarian. He's kind of like the snake that's kind of opening the eyes to Moira, because he even said it himself. He was like, you know what? You guys thought that it was the machines that were the threat. You know? And
exactly.
He said the Sentinels bought us, what is it, years? Nimrod bought us decades.
Yeah.
But the real threat has always been humans.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And so, just like AJ said here, he's kind of questioning whether the phalanx and the ascension is actually a good thing for them, and he's kind of goading Moira to say, hey, you know what, you guys are gonna die tomorrow. What are you gonna do about it? Basically, that was his whole speech, because he knows that Wolverine is gonna go ahead and kill Moira, reset the whole timeline, and we start this all over again, and maybe, just maybe, they find a way to avoid this.
Right.
Well, the interesting thing about this to me is that this is why I make the case. I'll make it again. I made it a couple of issues ago. To your point about whether the phalanx would tolerate this, the librarian actually speaks to that in a panel. He says, basically, he's talking about how Moira, they're going to send her off planet so that she can survive. And he says, if you live past my becoming God, then existing beyond space and time, we will know you forever. So he can't allow her to die before that, because if she dies before he merges with the phalanx, she has in essence control. She can reset the whole thing, and they won't even know who or what she is, what her power is, and all of that.
Right.
He wants to proceed to the phalanx with that knowing. So this is something that demonstrates that Moira has this power that we don't understand the limits of yet, which is, again, I think that's what was, even in this very run of issues, they describe that as what an Omega mutant is, a mutant whose power level can't be defined. But yeah, I think that's really interesting, and that's why I actually did like the storyline, because it all kind of brought together.
That's what I'm saying.
What year 1000 was really all about.
Yeah, and it was to reveal to us what the real threat is. This entire time we've been kind of like played to think that the threat is Nimrod and the Man Machine and this, that, and the other, and it's not. Right. Now we're given something that we still has. We have been giving a new enemy to the entire universe, to the entire world, not humans, mutant, the entire universe all alike, and it's all now on the shoulders of Moira to defend, which is why it's interesting now that we know what Moira's fate is. She's now she's basically secluded to this no place, where she, I guess, is going to live her entire existence in hiding, or at least as far as we know, and in hiding away from all the X-Men. The only people that know she's there is Xavier and Magneto, right? So this goes to kind of show like the same thing where like, Xavier in the past as a moral person isn't the type to like hide anything from anyone, but now he's hiding the secret of how they came to do all this with Moira being in a secret place. He lied to Mystique to get her on the council with what they're gonna do with Destiny and so on and so forth. And it's to me it's important from a character development standpoint that we now know what their ambitions are, what their intentions are, and how they operate with each other and in this universe. So I think that's why this issue is so important to me, because it gives us a very naked truth about who these characters are away from like the public eye. Because everything we've seen is in the eyes of when we see like the bits of Magneto and Xavier talking about like what they're trying to do, we see their perspective, but in front of the mutants that they're trying to lead, as well as the mutants that are coming to Krakoa and so on and so forth, and the rest of the world. In this scene with Moira, this is where we see Xavier and Magneto as who they really are, their intentions and so on and so forth. And I think that's really, really important for us to understand, like, that it's not just build this nation of Krakoa for freedom. It's now we need to figure out a way to save ourselves from this phalanx as well, And so moving forward to the very end, we go back to the same scene that we had before with the party, the celebration, the fireworks, and the whole nine. We get the exact same panels of Magneto and Xavier looking ahead, and Xavier where where House of X ended. We get the same panel where Magneto says, "Just look at what we have made," but we get one extra page. And let me read that off for you. Magneto continues, "And yet the thought lingers. Is it enough?" And Xavier replies, "This is only the start, Eric. But we have to hope so." Magneto says, "And if it is not?" And Xavier replies, "Then we do. We do more. Whatever the cost, whatever it takes. This is all there is, Eric. We live and we die with this, and you and I. Or rather, we live and die with this, you and I." And Magneto says, "Then I will die for it. And if I fall, then you will raise me up. I will show this world what a real mutant is." And Xavier replies, "Keep talking like that, and you're sure to elicit a response." Magneto replies, "I am not ashamed of what I am. Let them try and stop us this time." And then Xavier replies, "Yes, let them try."
The Forest Moon of Endor celebration panel right there.
Yep.
Looks a lot like it. This panel's great, and then a special honorable mention to Wolverine killing Moira again.
In the same way, gutting her, literally gutting her.
And somehow this panel's a little bit cooler than the last one. So that's a nice little bit of artwork from this issue. Great ending. I did actually like how they used the ending of the House of X issue 6 and just expanded a little bit more on it. Those extra 2 pages with that really great last panel. And I think, this just drives home, like Wolfie said, the point, the true, at least up until this point, what we know, the true reason behind Krakoa, besides the whole kumbaya, all the mutants are together, like joy of it all. It's about what it's always kind of been in both of their minds. It's about survival. It's just that for the first time, probably in the history of X-Men comics, their method of ensuring that survival has merged entirely.
Yes.
It's always been somewhat separated between Professor X and Magneto. It's finally merged 100%. And that's what's so interesting about this ending.
So, what did you guys think overall? Now we get to rate. We can rate these last 3 issues as itself, and then I want you guys to give us your rating for the entire House of X Powers of 10 journey that we've been on. Jose, let's go towards you this time. So the 3 issues first, and then the entire thing together.
Okay, do both of them? All right. So, for the 3 issues, I'm going to give this a 9. Still fantastic quality. I hate to say it fell off because that's a terrible way to put it. It didn't really fall off in quality in comparison to the last 3 issues. I just thought that the quality of the last 3 issues was just so high. And again, the quality of the first 3 issues that I really enjoyed and gave a 10 to. the quality in those was so high. And I think what was the second three issues I was at a 9 with that also.
Yeah.
So I have 2 10s and 2 9s. I definitely say this is a 9 in my eyes. It's again almost perfect in every way. It does slow down a little bit, yes, in service of the exposition, but it kind of slows down a lot of the momentum to rightfully focus on year 1000, but it does pull a lot of the action out of it at that point. So that takes us a little bit of it away from me. I'm not chasing action, which is what you had said earlier, AJ. It's not like I'm doing that. Like maybe you were thinking that Eli was doing that, but I would have liked to see a little bit, maybe something more, even though maybe it wouldn't have fit. So, and maybe I'll revise this one because this one I'm a little bit more unsure of in comparison to the other ones. But I would say a 9, and I'll stick with that for now.
And
overall,
the series as a whole?
Overall, the series as a whole, well, I'm just going to go right in between the two. It's a 9.5 for me. We can do halves, right?
Yeah, of course.
We can do halves. It's a 9.5. As you know, the first 3 issues are a knock it out of the park with me with the big Moira reveal and all that comes with that in those first few issues. Then we get to the second set of issues, and it's still great, but again, not quite to the high standard of the first 3 issues. Then you have that third set of issues with the last couple of issues of House of X and Powers of 10 before we get to the final 3. And again, those are my favorites. I think the amount of crazy stuff that goes on in those 3 is fantastic. And then these, again, it's a fitting ending. Not anticlimactic. Again, I don't want to use that word, but I just want to give you a sense of what I'm thinking in terms of where these last 3 issues go. With the madness of the previous 3 issues, maybe there could have been a better way to pace out some of that stuff and spread it into these 3. Still overall fantastic. So yeah, 9.5 out of 10 for the whole thing. A great relaunch, and boy, what this means for the future of comics and the MCU. We'll get into it.
So I'll go ahead and rate next. So I give these last 3 issues again. I thought that they were great from a character development standpoint. Whereas the previous episode we had like a lot of action and stuff. This episode we have a lot more of character development, in my opinion. So, you know, each thing is a equal side, in my opinion, to the same coin. So I give these 3 issues a 9.5 out of 10, only because I thought that the art was a little bit wonky on some of the panels towards the end. But aside from that, you know, I did think that the House of X 6 was one of the best art wise. But yeah, and now I approached this entire 4-part, I guess, like in 4 blocks, almost like a full story, so to speak, where you have Act 1, 2, 3, and then an epilogue. So to me, episode, if we go by our listening kind of schedule, our first episode to me was Act 1, second episode was Act 2, previous episode was Act 3, and then this episode is the epilogue, which, when I think about it in that standpoint, from that point of view, I think that like it really does work, which is why we had a little bit of a slower pace in this epilogue, because it's meant to set up everything else in all the comic books coming in from here on out. The rest of the world building and character development is in these last 3 issues, in this epilogue, so to speak. So while I do agree that there is a little bit of a drop off, so to speak, in action, you could say, I think that it's sort of meant to be, right? Because there's got to, this serves more as a transition to the new books versus an end to these. You know what I mean? So I felt like the story to the House of X and Powers of 10 kind of thing happened in the previous 3 issues. And then this is the segue to all the new issues that are coming out for Dawn of X, which is X-Men, X-Force, Fallen Angels, Marauders, and Excalibur. So as a whole, I give this a 10, a perfect 10, simply because this is one of those that I think every comic book fan, especially if you're an X-Men fan, you need to own this in your collection. This is going to be one of those, you know, pivotal moments in comic book history where if you're a fan and you're a collector, you have to own every single one of these issues. Go out and buy them, get get the some of the extra covers, some of the concept art covers, and so on and so forth, and have them in your collection. I don't think that like if you're a self-respecting X-Men fan, that you in any way possible do not buy these comic books and add it to your collection. So that's why I give it a 10. I think it's a amazing story from beginning to end. Amazing action where the action was. Great comic relief where it needed it, and an awesome segue with the epilogue in the end, and a setup to this brand new universe. Because remember, we're not setting up just a couple new storylines. We're setting up the next 3 years of the entire Marvel X-Men universe. So that's where I stand. Let's zigzag back this way, Eli, to give probably the opposing, contrasting argument.
Yeah, you want me to be really honest with this?
Well, of course, we want your opinion.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed. The last one I would give a 2 out of 10. The three.
A 2 out of 10. A 2 out of 10 is basically don't even read it.
No, not 2 out of 10. 4 out of 10. 4 out of 10. And for the three comic books, the last 3 that we just discussed, I would say about maybe an 8 out of 10. The only reason why I say 8 is because that last episode, the one before this, really brought it up for me, especially since that was my favorite. And as a whole, I'm sorry, but an 8.5 out of 10.
Well, don't be sorry for an 8.5. 8.5 is still
good.
respectable.
Well,
Yeah, it's still pretty good.
8.5.
Or you're trying to go even lower just to go lower on
no,
purpose.
no.
I'm surprised it's that high with how low you rated some.
Yeah, I
of the
know.
No.
previous issues.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's just that you needed to get the full perspective of it.
Huh? No, I understood it.
No,
I
but
definitely
like
understood it.
What I'm trying to say is, what with what Jose was saying, the first few he graded very badly, but now that he has everything in context, that's
Yeah,
gonna
but
shape
it's
it a
still the
lot
same for me.
more.
It's still the same, like no matter what.
Okay.
Okay.
AJ?
All right, so let's start with this one individually. I really liked it because I liked what you were saying earlier, Wolfie. Like they swerve it. Oh, you thought the androids? Oh my God, the Sentinels were the bad guys. No, it's really just been humans all along. You got to fear us. Yeah, we're the ultimate big bad. But to me, the ultimate big bad is this Phalanx fella. Because, what was it? I think, I was just reading what you said. Did it say that they were already part of the Phalanx and that they were going to go one step higher with the Dominion?
Right. The Dominion is a whole nother step that we haven't even
another
been,
level.
it has not even been shown. So again,
Yeah.
actually it's the Dominion that they need to stop. That's the big bad that we're waiting for.
Yeah.
So
And it said that
and
they
if we
were
thought
like,
Galactus was a bad guy.
yeah. This is like this is giving me anti-monitor vibes, but like just
It's like Brainiac.
I lost my train of thought.
Dominion.
Yeah, the Dominion. It really seems like it transcends space-time. So how long can you really keep it hidden that Earth was, quote-unquote, skipped? Like, a being like that, is it really going to stay oblivious to a distortion in time that long?
Well, I mean, that's if we are being simple-minded and considering that the Earth is just one in 1,000 galaxies when there's trillions of galaxies out there.
I get that, but if this is like a... Come on. It's one thing to like, okay, I'm subsuming a billion, I missed one. Wait, I missed one?
No, I don't think that they
Why
miss
did I
it.
miss
I
one?
think that's the thing. I don't think that they miss it. This is them like now coming to the Earth, right? Because
Yeah, but this is what I'm trying to say. It's like they're coming to it, they're about to grab it, but for some inexplicable reason, they just go, wait, I thought I was about to get it. What the hell?
No. I think what they had described is that they do end up getting it. this being goes to Moira and Wolverine, explains that this is what's about to happen, and he just lets them know so that they can actually. It's almost like this is God giving them free will. Like, I'm giving you guys the choice, basically, to figure out how to stop this.
Yeah,
I don't think the Phalanx is gonna. I don't think the Phalanx is missing Earth in that timeline.
No,
the
no,
Phalanx.
no, I'm not talking about the Phalanx. I'm talking
Little
about the
bit.
Dominion.
Oh yeah, but
The
like, I mean,
Dominion is about to grab Earth, and for some inexplicable reason, wait, I thought I was about to get it.
I think
Wait,
we're
what the hell
confused here
this
again.
is-
I'm confused.
So they are already the Phalanx at this point.
Right, but the Phalanx is what goes in and grabs all the different, I guess, like
but now they're going
societies.
to the next level. And
Yeah,
by
but we
going
haven't
to the
seen that
next-
yet. We're that hasn't been explained yet.
But isn't that what the whole point of that last part was?
Explaining that this is what's about to happen.
Yes, so the Dominion is about to go and grab them
Right.
and subsume them
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't see where you see the Dominion missing them.
because Moira died and started another life.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't miss them at that point.
Well, it doesn't have the knowledge of her. Though,
Yeah, it just
because
doesn't have the knowledge of her. That's
because
it.
she dies
Before the absorber. That's all.
The absorption.
Because
So that timeline is erased.
Because that being.
And so
that,
how does a being that's above space-time not notice something like that?
Because the librarian interfered. The librarian is supposed to represent the Phalanx, and basically betrays the Phalanx and the Dominion by letting them know. So it's like all of this is happening because the librarian decides to interject in fate and destiny.
I'm not convinced. I'm
Really?
really just not convinced.
Krakoa itself is a lot of the reason behind it too, because Krakoa exists in a weird dimensional space also. And
Okay.
I don't know, just chalk it up to the Deus Ex Machina of the X-Men universe, the Shi'ar Empire. They always have the technology to do stuff.
Yeah.
And
So
again,
anyway, ultimately-
it could just be just like he said. You're stepping on ants. You know, there's so
Yeah.
many of
Okay,
out there.
but
You
like-
know what I'm saying?
Imagine you're stepping on ants, and then one of them lifts you off the ground. You're not going to be taken aback
Okay,
by that.
You have to
think-
try and do that first, and you have to step on 1,000 other ants before that.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
just-
exactly what I'm saying. They've been obviously the Dominions have been around for like God knows how long.
Yeah.
Right.
And now all of a sudden this one thing goes and throws a wrench in that plan. Like
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
escape
I mean,
their
that's
notice.
kind of the idea because of what you're saying is that like the Dominion, there's no plausible way that the Dominion can miss this. Then like, what's the point of like having a universe in general? Like, it's just everybody's succumbing to that fate. Then you break the whole point of telling a story in general.
I don't think the Dominion exists as like this god creature that's omnipotent. I think it's building its intelligence.
omniscience?
Yeah,
omniscience,
exactly,
sorry.
yeah.
It's building its intelligence by absorbing different civilizations. It just hasn't gotten to Earth yet. And so, like they were saying, it doesn't have the knowledge of the mutants and Moira in specific that she has this power that can reset reality.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's to the point where it's like the librarian kind of gave them a heads up and say, hey, before we go into this phalanx, into the Dominion, you got to kill yourself, because if we ascend, then they know about you. And then this thing is over. You got to kill yourself before you get there.
So that you
Because
have a
then
chance.
You're still kind of anonymous in the universe. That the Dominion still doesn't have a target on you because it doesn't know about you. So I think that's where it is with that. You
So
know
I mean,
what I'm saying?
we're in the rating section. So let's not forget that we're here to rate now.
Okay.
So give me your rating on the 3 issues, then give me your rating overall.
so that was still just the issue by itself. The issue by
Oh my
itself.
god.
The issue by itself is we usually
3
okay. You know what?
issues.
Let's just go back to 3. The 3, I'm still gonna stick with like my 9.
Okay.
As far as the greater whole, I'm going to step it up with a 9.5.
5 because we only go halves.
Yeah. And
I'll
yeah,
accept the
this was-
9.9 too, actually.
overall, it was like I'm not gonna lie. Whenever I think of Marvel, X-Men is not the first thing I think of, but this
Right.
kind of puts them on the map for me.
Okay.
Like it was kind of one of those things where it's like,
It all
So you
depends, I
have-
think, on
so
the
you-
era that you grew up in.
yeah, like for me, I likened it to this. So a lot of people know about the Justice League, but how many people actually know about the Suicide Squad?
I guess, but definitely don't ever compare the X-Men to the Suicide Squad.
Okay, but what I'm trying
No,
to
but I
say,
understand the correlation you're trying to make.
Yeah.
All right,
So this
cool.
really puts them on the map for me, and to have
Cool.
them to be this central to the Marvel universe, now I'm really interested in seeing where they go with this.
And Walt, for our final review, hopefully we maybe don't go into Dominion philosophy and talk. So.
No, we won't do that. The three issues that we just talked about, I would give it an 8.5.
Okay.
Only because it's a very dense, especially that last one is very dense. There's a lot of information that you got to unpack and stuff.
You found that as a negative?
Well, the reason is that, and this is kind of like a theme of it. There's a lot of information that you have to really delve in to get the real gist of the book, right?
Right.
You can't just, I remember AJ at the beginning when he first read it, he kind of forgot those data dumps.
Mm-hmm.
Those data dumps are essential to understanding everything that happens in the book. So to me, that last issue, while it gave us, some answers and stuff, it still left us with some questions, which is good because
Well, that's the
puts it
point, right?
into-
The
exactly.
thing is, that's the point.
It's
It's
the
the
jumping off
relaunch.
point,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So you
So-
got to look at it, I think, through that lens.
Right. So, but again, I didn't find anything bad with it. I just thought it was a lot to unpack. Right. The run of the two titles, overall, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Right. And again, it's one of these things where it's like I have to credit Hickman for redefining and reestablishing the X-Men universe. I like what he did with these secondary and tertiary characters where he's now given them purpose,
Right,
which is not something
right.
that you've seen before. Moira is a perfect example. We've always thought she's just like a regular person.
I
and
think
now-
Gold Balls is even
Well,
a more perfect
exactly.
example.
No, but I'm saying, like, he's taken characters that we've never really thought about, and he's made them relevant. And that's
Yeah.
saying something, especially in a book where you have so many different characters. I think he did a really good job balancing all of that.
Mm-hmm.
He gave all of the characters voices. He gave them their own moments and stuff like that. Again, the only thing, and it's not a negative, but again, it's one of these things where for you to truly understand this book, you really, really have to take the time to read every single thing, because if not, you're not gonna get an enjoyment of the book like we do.
Right.
This is we enjoyed it because we kind of like dissected every little bit
Right.
piece, and it made the story a lot more cohesive. For the average comic book guy who again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to kind of put a spotlight on you, but like AJ, he kind of read the story the first time and kind of missed those data dumps. That's the only thing where it's like, if you're going to tell the story, it has to be something that you're going to read all the way through. So that's why I don't give him higher than a 9 out of 10, but I think it's still essential reading, especially going forward with where the X-Men are going to go, where the Marvel Universe is going to go. I think you have to read this book to get an understanding if you want to continue to read books in the Marvel comic book universe.
I just, not to disagree with you, but for me, that's actually a good thing. I don't think that like there was too much exposition where like it's unbearable, but the
No,
fact that there
I
is
agree with that.
the fact that you have the data dumps where they are, the information where it is, that for me gives it rereadability. It makes it easier to go back.
Okay.
Not easy, but like it makes you, like for me, it makes me want to go back and discover more information
Right.
that I'm going to be using.
And don't get me wrong, I don't find it a negative that it's so dense, right? My thing is that, for somebody who just wants to read a book, it might be a lot of information to digest.
This is why we have these episodes.
Right, exactly. And that's the only reason. But I don't find that as a negative because all that stuff enriches the book itself, those data dumps.
See,
Right?
I would be careful with that though, because I would rather you would rate it on your merits, not on the merits of some other random reader who doesn't understand this. Rate it more how you feel and less how somebody else would feel who doesn't maybe understand this story very well. I think that's what I would rather hear.
But you know what? I want to do it so that the people that are listening also understand what they're getting themselves into.
Well, they probably already read it though.
Huh?
They probably
That's
already read it if they've
understandable.
gotten
That's
this far.
understandable.
Yeah, I can go over here and say, you know what, it's the best thing in the world. Go read it, and then somebody will go and pick it up and say, what the hell is this? There's so much stuff here to read. You know,
No, and that's
I
perfect.
might not find it enjoyable. There's some
That's
people
the-
that just
that's
don't do that.
That's
You
why,
know
and
what I'm
that's why we have these discussions, our own ratings and viewpoints.
Mm-hmm.
You know, someone that is more inclined to be like Eli will follow his rating. Someone to be more inclined like us will follow ours, and so on and so
Right.
forth. And that's kind of where we wanted to kind of jump off with this. This is our first try at the Get Geek comic book reading club. Tell us what you thought in comments and so on and so forth. And I want to give you guys a little bit of information on what we're going to be doing moving forward with this. Every so often, we're going to try to get together, pick a series of comics that we're going to all try to, read. Maybe not huge events like this all the time, unless it's something really, really big. I think at some point down the line we'll eventually read House of M, which was a big event. But it'd be cool to kind of reread some really old comics, some recent ones that are coming out, short story arcs that we can read, review for you guys. For some of you guys that are kind of nostalgic for comics but don't have the time, the energy, or maybe even the funds to invest in reading comics, and we can read them for you, review them for you. You guys can read along with us if you like, or check us out before you go and read the full story and buy the comics yourselves. So moving forward, we're going to try to do some of these episodes where we'll do a little comic book reading club kind of thing and have you guys join along. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this 4-part series where we introduce this new kind of segment, and yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Please tell us what you thought of the comic book reading club. Tell us if there's any comic book story arcs or series that you would like us to read. Make some suggestions so that we can kind of plan out moving forward what we want to kind of put into the docket. Maybe we can do a poll online, suggest some comics that you guys might want us to check out, and then go from there. So
Thank you again, guys, for listening to
this was a lot of fun, by the way.
Cast this.
Oh, hell yeah.
Well, I mean, talking about the future of the X-Men a little bit here has been really, really interesting, and getting back into this comic, which I was somewhat slow to read, even though I knew it was awesome, was pretty great. But as we have in the last few weeks, we want to thank all of you out there for your growing level of engagement on our various social media pages, with our podcast, with your comments and your likes, and some of the things that you shared, some of the content that we put out there. Thank you again for all of you in the Get Geek community for doing that for us. And thank you for joining us for this 4-part mega episode on House of X and Powers of 10, one of the biggest Marvel Comics events in years. So, as always, guys, please rate, share, subscribe. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Check out our webpage. Check us out on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Find us, even though you probably already have found us if you're listening to us now. Find us again and share us
And
with
rate
your
us.
friends who might actually enjoy this stuff. Thanks again, and signing off, this is Jose.
Wolfie?
We Phalanx bidding thee farewell.
Well,
Eli.
And as always, and as usual, stay geeky out there, my friends.
Stay geeky.